Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 Alwin Porsche Supercup, coming to you live from Road America in Wisconsin, in the United States, for round 4 of our 8-round championship, joined tonight by Sean Woodgate on commentary. I am your host, Dennis Mitchell. Sean, if you'd like to say good evening to everyone.
Good evening, everybody. Very nice to be here as well, and what a great circuit you're on. And also, just looking at the tracks that are, the cars that are out on track at the moment, looks as though we're going to have a stunning weather for racing as well.
Yes, the weather's, I see, pretty much going to be clear for the race, or it might be a bit overcast to start, but clearing, so it should be a nice, beautiful, sunny day.
Yeah, the Road America circuit is, I look at it, it's quite daunting, I think, on the driver, although what I would say is you have a few places where you can probably flex the fingers and take a bit of a relax, but you've got certain sections that are very tricky. The car that we're going or following at the moment has just passed pit exit, or where you'd leave the track to get into the pits, and whether they've changed the names now, the bridge that he went underneath was the Ray Gardner Bridge, and then you have, well, they call it turn 1, 2 and 3, but turn 2 isn't much of a corner in itself, but turn 1 and turn 3 very definitely are right-handers, and you would get down in the gears for that. But a lot of, like this sweep that they go through now, I don't think they'd feather the throttle at all for that one. It would be taken flat out. But I've been listening to some of the guys abusing the gearbox and also abusing track limits. Certainly you'd have to be very, very careful, because some of the corners you slow down from a very high speed, and if you're going to be banging it down the gears, then it's not going to be very good to the engine that you're qualifying with.
Definitely. Well, let's just have a quick look at our schedule. So we are indeed at Road America tonight. Next week we will be at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and then we'll be following that by Suzuka in Japan, then Marina, and then our final circuit will be one you're familiar with, Zandvoordt. Red Bull Ring is likely to be a wet race next week, and Marina will be our first day-night race, so that should be quite exciting and quite new for a lot of the drivers that aren't used to that sort of weather challenge and day-night cycle challenge. That's more what the endurance drivers are used to. Most of our drivers don't do endurance racing. Then let's also quickly have a look at our championship standings. So currently, after round 3 coming into round 4, we have Jason Underwood for Team Harder Racing leading with 309 points, Jean-Andre de Toy on 291 points, Jandre Duppenaar on 283 points, Chris Collison on 279, Andre Hildebrandt 265, Dani Stander 263, Bjorn Buchner 184, Marius van Wyk 176, Basil van Rijn 174, Monet du Toy 166, Gilly Silva on 164, Hannes Besson on 160, Javi Goos on 160, Ulro Duppenaar on 99, and Sean Olivier on 93. So only showing the top 15 there. We also have our team championship. So in the team championship standings, we have Team Harder Racing leading at the moment on 588 points, PZN Panel Beaters on 574, Team Gunston on 449, GDR Racing on 183, and Daltec on 176. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I think right now qualifying has started, so let's cross over live to qualifying.
Nice to see the cars coming out on the circuit, and we'll see once I get around how many actually have made it to the circuit for today. And as we said before, it's a circuit that has nice fast sweeps, but the corners that you go into, the Corvette bridge that they're going under now, and I've got to go find it, that's between turns 10 and 11. Turn 11 is actually a kink, and then they go through a portion of the circuit called Kettle Bottoms down to turn 12, which is Canada Corner, which is a sharp right-hander. Then it's 13, the Bill Mitchell bend, which is left, and then harden the brakes and to the right for the last corner of the circuit, which is just after the Hawk Tunnel, and that's turn 14. And turn 14 is actually in a good place, as well as the pit to leave the circuit, because you slow already, or you slowed right down, and if you were to decide to get off the track, then it would be immediately after turn 14. And the limiter is, if you were to continue on circuit, you'd see that just after the pit in, they go through underneath a bridge, and the pit limit line is just before that bridge. But then that straight is along the Road America straight to turn 1. is a long straight. So I think that's where the drivers actually can catch a breather.
Yes, it's a long straight and a nice fast sweeping first turn, so that could definitely lead for some good overtaking.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few corners, turns 5 and 6. I think if you're going to really harass the person ahead of you, then turn 5 and 6, which is just before and just after the Corvette Bridge, you'll see it with the signage on. That's a nice place, I think, for overtaking as well. And then if you've got your car well placed again, just after that, you go through a sweep, which is turn 7, and then a hard left is turn 8, section of the track just before turn 8, what they call hurry downs. But I think you have to have your car well positioned to be ready to do an overtake if you're going to do that at turn 8.
Yeah, and another one is there's a sequence of corners that sets you up for another overtaking move. As you come out of hurry downs, you go into turn 8, then you go right around the carousel. That carousel, if you get that right and you get your apexes right, it tightens on you. So if you get the power down earlier than the car in front of you, it builds all the way as you go through that little straight there, through the kink. It's flat out through the kink if you get that right, or a slight little lift in these cars sometimes, through the kettle bottoms, and then you get to Canada corner, which is a really tight corner. By that point, you might be alongside or even past, so that's another way, but that all builds up from the carousel.
Yeah, so from what you just said, what's important, like that mistake there, as we follow that guy through qualifying, would be bad, because if you lose your momentum through the fast section of the track, then the guy behind you has a good chance of catching up to and getting next to you and positioning his vehicle for the tight corner. As you said, Canada corner is one of them. I think the last corner, turn 14, might be another, but certainly the sweeps, some of them that I've seen are quite hairy, and the carousel, I think, is going to be interesting depending how your car's been set up, whether you're going to suffer under or oversteer, or if you've got the car actually well balanced. Because as it tightens and tightens, if you've got a car that's well set up, but your competitor doesn't, then that's another place where you can, nice power slide through that corner.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another place where you can get the car well positioned to try and attack later on, because the kink, I don't think, is the place to do it after the Continental Tire Bridge, which is between turns 10 and 11. But the kink, as you go through 11, which is quite high speed, when you approach Canada corner, that's pretty much where you position your vehicle, your Porsche, to try and get ahead of the guy that you might be competing against.
Yes. As you see, after that nice broad slide, he manages to put it on provisional pole on a 2:12.401, and straight away beaten by Yandre Dupino on a 2:12.321.
Yeah, for spectators, the slides look spectacular, but they actually do slow you down, because you're not getting the ultimate grip out of the tires. I think last week it was, or the week before, I heard somebody talking about the kinetic friction coefficient and the static friction coefficient. Now, if you go and study up all about those, a car that's sliding actually has a kinetic friction coefficient, which means your tires are not gripping as well as what they are when you're riding in a straight line.
That's an interesting topic. I know last week off air, after we were speaking about certain bike races, one of the things that came up between us was a conversation about Noriki Haga. Noriki Haga was teammates briefly in MotoGP with Gary McCoy, and at that particular time, Gary McCoy was one of the few guys that could get a bike sideways and managed to actually maintain his tires towards the end of the race, and no one could understand it. And in fact, there was a funny story about Haga being behind him through a practice session, and he pitted, and the team was saying, well, why did you come into the pits? And his response was, too much smoke, can't see. But the funny thing about that was, at the time they were using Michelin tires, and the Michelin engineers, they couldn't understand what was going on, so they went deeper into the science of it. And what they found, and this is something that actually has come out since in Formula 1 as well, that a certain amount of slip can actually benefit you. Now in Formula 1 they say roughly 10 to 15% slip can actually benefit you, because what it does is it heats up the surface of the tire, not the core of the tire. As we see Stan Bezadner losing it there.
Yeah.
So if you heat up the core of the tire, then it overheats and it doesn't come back. If you heat the surface of the tire, you can cool it and regain the tire's grip. So that way you can actually manage the tire, and that way you can slide it all the way to the end, which is what Gary McCoy was doing at the time, and nowadays everyone does it.
Yeah, I think the first person that we actually saw, and now we're off the topic completely, to slide a motorcycle, both front and rears, was Randy Mamola.
Yes.
But that's giving away my age.
Those are the good days.
Yeah.
Before traction control.
yeah, and all those driver aids. And I think certain drivers took to traction control and the modern era, as I think some of the youngsters doing sim racing are quicker than their fathers that were actual track racers, because taking to the technology is part of the art of doing this fast. It's very different driving a race car on a track fast compared to doing a sim car on the track fast. And I think just maybe I would be useless at this. Well, I never tried my hand at racing anyway. Some people drive fast, others can speak fast. So I took to the speaking bit. I was the clown that got paid to leave at the end of the day.
Speaking about aids, these cars do have some aids. They have traction control and they have ABS. They also have auto blip, which is enabled because in sim racing not all drivers have a clutch. So you're enabled auto blip, although these cars still require you to blip. It's just the blipping function of the clutch is kind of there. So you still have to blip the throttle part of it, but the clutch part is automatic.
Yeah, there's, I'm just looking at some of the signage now when they leave the circuit. It used to be the Gardner-Denver Bridge, but I suppose that's going back a few days. I see a lot of Chevrolet signage there at the moment.
Some quick times, by the way, at the moment. We have Andrew Holland in provisional pole and in a 2:11.843. Currently watching Yandre Dippenaar, who's up in the first sector by 0.071. Let's see if he can make it through this. No, unfortunately in the second sector he's lost 7/10, so he's not going to get pole position with that. We're now watching Jason Underwood, who's now 0.4 up in the first sector.
There'll be yellows, so you'll have to get off the throttle for that one.
Yes, that was right in his line there.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice, I suppose. You're about to get a good lap in, and then something happens in front of you which you have absolutely no influence, and you have to slow down.
Yes. Of course, the driver in provisional pole position is Andrew Holland. He's a new driver with us, so he is the current teammate, a new teammate, part of the team Harder Racing, which is Jason Underwood and Chris Collison. So that's the new teammate that has joined us. He does do rFactor endurance racing. In fact, he's doing the virtual Le Mans series. He's going to be taking part in that, as well as other high-end sim races. So he's quite a fast driver, as we can see, being in provisional pole position. Jason currently up still.
Between turns 8 and 9, that bridge that crosses there, that still kept its old signage. It's the Speedville Bridge, just before you go into the carousel.
See Yandre Dippenaar just losing it there. He got a little bit too much on the dirt, taking out all the Motel signs. I guess he doesn't like the oil.
They probably won't mind too much because it gives them time on TV. So
yes. And Jason Underwood, he has his worst final sector, but still manages to take provisional pole on a 1:11.756. So that's 0.087 ahead of his new teammate. Yandre Dippenaar now on screen. 6/10 down in the first sector.
Yeah, qualifying is so important. But just a little bit off topic, I've noticed that in the last few Formula One races, qualifying isn't everything. And I like the way they've done the changes, so that even though you haven't qualified on the first row, you still have a good chance. I had the privilege to speaking to some of the superbike riders that were here, Carl Fogarty being probably one of the best known, and he said as long as he's on the first or the second row, and if memory serves me correctly, in those days they were 4 bikes per row. It has changed subsequently. I think they now do 3 bikes per row, but he said that he could always pick it up in the race itself.
Yes.
He was not known to be the best qualifier or the most consistent qualifier, but as long as you're in the first or the second row, bikes are concerned, but cars of course are, well, they're not alongside, but just slightly stable, but just 2 abreast.
I notice watching Jason Underwood at the moment, going to turn 8 as he comes down through Harry Downs into turn 8, a lot of understeer. The front is not gripping and just pushing the front.
Yeah, I don't know what the Porsches do, whether they've also got a spring to adjust to actually get more weight on the front wheels, but understeer, I'm just trying to think. I had a racing friend. Understeer is when you hit it was the difference between kilowatts and torque. kilowatts is how fast you hit the wall.
Oh, Elizabeth there.
There's everybody, I think he was watching the driver in front of him. Now, kilowatts is what speed you hit the wall at, and torque is how far you push the wall away from the circuit. So yeah, those two riders, yeah, you can see the replay. The driver ahead got it wrong, and I think there was a bit of ball watching happening in front of him, and then in thinking that he has to take avoiding action, he just overdid it and went into the tyres on the right.
Yeah, the driver ahead was Donnie Stander there, which is the son-in-law of Harvey Curse.
Oh, there we go. So, Harvey not on the list for tonight.
No, I don't know why, but he's not here tonight, unfortunately. So Harvey's watching. Harvey, where are you?
Oh, yeah, that's what happens when you go on the grass. I've noticed on certain sections of this track, when you leave the circuit on this corner specifically, there's a little bit of a ditch as the tar meets the earth, as it were. And that unsettled this Porsche completely.
Yes. Now these drivers, we have a fixed setup at the moment, so the drivers can't adjust much. They can basically adjust brake bias. I think that's pretty much about it. They can set their fuel, although at the moment the fuel is fixed, I think, for this event. So there's not much they can adjust. I mean, you could maybe play around with suspensions to compensate that slightly, but I think the suspension is pretty firm at the moment, so it does not like those ditches.
Nice to see the cars going around. How long do they get for a quali session?
Qualifying is 15 minutes, which we have about a minute and a half left of, and then we will have a short break before we go into a 30-minute race.
Yeah, certainly is going to be interesting. Well, that's definitely not the way to take that corner. And yeah, he was trying to do too much too fast. And it's the last corner, it's turn 14. He actually got it wrong through Bill Mitchell Bend at turn 13 already.
Yeah, possibly he was trying his best to get past the driver in front so that he could have a clear lap, the final lap, because that would be his last chance.
Yeah.
As we're now watching Andrew Holland, our current second place driver. 7/10 down on this lap in his first sector, so not likely to be improving here.
Also, cutting the corner, I think he took the corner earlier than what he should have, rather than following the racing line. And that bend there, he missed the apex completely.
See if he has any understeer here. Through the kink, he does have a bit of understeer.
Which is wide. Yeah. And so something like that happens, which is that kink is almost a little bit of an S, although a very elongated S. You have to really get off the throttle for the second portion thereof, because you're out of line as you're exiting the first part. Rather rough on the curbs there as well.
Yes.
Actually, interesting out of Le Mans today is one driver handing the car over and then the next driver getting in and not proceeding 20 meters, and said, but he handed the car over in perfect condition. And then when they went through the logs, he'd actually driven over one of those sausage curbs a few laps before coming into the pits. And when they actually took on fuel and dropped the tyre off the jacks, when they dropped the car back onto the wheels again, there was a ball joint that actually broke. So he's actually responsible for the breakage on the car.
Alright, so Andrew has of course come across the line and finished his lap. He's now down to third. Chris Collison has come across in second. So currently we have Jason Underwood, who's on personal best in sector 1 at the moment on his final lap. 0.72 ahead of Chris Collison and 0.087 ahead of Andrew Holland. So 1, 2, 3 for Team Harder Racing at the moment.
Yeah, certainly interesting stuff. And the more I see the circuit, the more I realize it's nice and fast, yes, but like that portion there, you're drifting out wide, you're increasing the length that you're running in the circuit. So it's no longer 6.5 kilometers, it's 6.6. So to do any good times, you're actually doing longer circuit than what the quick guys are doing by staying on the racing line.
Yes.
And bouncing it off the curbs and way off the circuit.
Losing a lot of momentum there. I don't suppose he will be improving on this lap. There's 2 tenths down in the middle sector.
Yeah, two things happen is you don't grip too well on the off-road, and then you've got muck all over your tires. It's not going to have too much effect there because you've got the long straight, the Road America straight. Somebody looking at all parts of the circuit simultaneously.
Alright, well that's the end of qualifying, so let's head off to an ad break and we will be back with you all shortly. Alright, welcome back everyone to the Sim Experience 2022 Porsche Supercup, proudly brought to you by Alwin Automotive Glass. We are here at Road America in Wisconsin for round 4 of our 8-round championship. This is a 30-minute race. Having just come out of qualifying, let's have a look at our current championship schedule. So after Road America we will have Red Bull Ring for round 5, for round 6 we'll have Suzuka, for round 7 we will have Marina, and for round 8 we will have Zandvoort. We'll have a look at our starting order. So starting in pole position, if that will show. Let's try that again. Starting in pole position we have Jason Underwood. In second place Chris Collison. In third place Andrew Holland. In fourth place Yandre Dupinot. In fifth place Basil van Rijn. In sixth place Jean-Andre de Toy. In seventh place Bjorn Buchner. In eighth place Marius van Wyk. In ninth place Dani Stander. And in 10th place Stan Bezuidenhout. Alright, so let's now get our live timing up as we watch the drivers driving around, doing their formation lap, warming up their tires. Quite a long lap on a flying lap, so on a out lap it will take pretty long.
Those that are interested, 4.048 miles, otherwise 6.515 kilometers.
Definitely one of the longest circuits we go to. But lap time wise it wouldn't show it because it's such a fast track, lots of straights and fast corners. 14 corners in total.
Turn 5 and 6 there, has the Corvette bridge in between.
So at the moment I believe we're heading through turn 8. And now we'll go through turn 9 and turn 10, which is referred to as the carousel.
If you see the Speedville Bridge, that's just before turn 9, which is the start of the carousel. The exit of the carousel is turn 10.
And between turn 10 and 11, if you were doing the motorcycle layout, you would turn left through the bend and then turn right and come back onto where the kink is. lots of weaving happening by Jason. He's about the only driver that's weaving at the moment. Andrew Holland's first drive with us and currently in 3rd place.
The right-hander that just went through, that's Canada corner. Then the left is Bill Mitchell bend, and then they should have a 90-degree right, which is probably more of a sweep. That's a very gentle right.
Some of the cars have the camera mount above the car on the roof. Most of the cars don't seem to have it. That is an option.
Where the last bend is, it's vehicles for life. If you look out for the signage there, that's on turn 14.
Right, everyone's slowly making their way onto their grid positions. The outlap pace is always dictated by the leader, and Jason this time around going pretty slowly. Alright, you're away. A little bit of rolling backwards there by Jason. I'm not sure if that would get a penalty.
It's an uphill till they go past the Chevrolet Bridge down the Road America Straight, and then downhill beyond that into turn 1. So here you can see the downhill. It's actually noticeable, and looks as though everybody at this stage, although they were 3 abreast at one time, getting through there quite comfortably. A little bit of using the road and a bit more.
A little bit of jaw contact there, but nothing too serious.
Yeah, nice long sweeping corner. Not too much of a problem. The Sargento Bridge is between turns 3 and 4. Now after turn 4, after the bridge, you through the Moraine sweep again, which is downhill. Then hard on the brakes for turn 5, which is a left-hander 90 degrees approximately, before you then get to the Corvette bridge.
This turn 5 is actually very difficult in these cars because as you hit the brakes, the track drops down. As it drops down and you hit the brakes, the rear end wants to come around on you, so you can't just brake and shift down. You got to brake, let the speed scrub off, and then shift to avoid the rear locking up.
Then they threw turns, or more of a sweep 7, then hurry downs, and then a 90-degree left, and the Speedwell Bridge, and then into the Carousel, which is probably a tightens, which is where you're going to find understeer before they go through turn 10. Speedwell Bridge, and as I said, there's the Carousel. It just goes on and on and on. Everybody seems to be holding position, nobody going off the circuit. A lot of them going off the circuit during qualifying, but I think they've sorted that out.
Yeah, probably just pushing the limits, trying to find where they can find an extra tenth or two.
In the kink and kettle bottoms, as I get down to turn 12, which is Canada corner, sharp 90-degree right. Nice view out of the car.
See how much work is going on with that steering wheel.
Yeah, they're catching it. This will be the bull, or the vehicles for life sign says that you're back into the straightaway again. That's where you get off the circuit to go into the pit. Going up to the Chevrolet Bridge, the Road America Straight. Don't see him relaxing the hands at all, but if you were seriously racing, this would be the point where you'd actually flex the fingers a little bit. That's the finish line that you just will flash past underneath them. And then it'll be turn 1, which is through the gearbox, sharp on the brakes, right-hander. They actually take it a lot faster than what I would have thought. That's the Briggs and Stratton signage over the top of the circuit. That also gives you a good idea that they're on the way to the right-hand at turn 3 before they get to the Sargento Bridge. The bridges are actually nice for commentary because it tells you where you are on the circuit. There's the Sargento Bridge, you might not think so, but it is the yellow and black signage. And that's turn 4, which is not much. It's the part of the Moraine sweep, which is downhill again, then sharp on the brakes for the left-hander, which is turn 5. Corvette Bridge coming up next.
Camera seems to have changed away. Let's go back there. Follow that lap.
Oh yeah, you hear they just actually feather the throttle. I don't think they're onto the brakes at all for that. But certainly a high speed in these Porsches. A bit of a slide on the back end. which might cost a little bit. The Speedville Bridge again, which certainly those are some of the back markers, I think, that are going through turn 9, which is the carousel there.
Coming under threat at the moment by Basil van Rijn behind him, thanks to all those slides, losing a bit of momentum.
Yeah. What it does appear is that, that's not going to help either. It's a nice wide circuit, so I suppose you could attempt more than one racing line, especially if you are on the attack. And the guy that you are behind, if he sees you on one side, you might change your mind about what line you want to take into the corner.
Someone taking out the signboard there.
Nice pirouette as they go out of turn 14 and up the hill. The Chevrolet bridge. Got to keep your wits about with the bridges, because Chevrolet is one of the bridges and Corvette is another one. So the same company but different signage and names.
Fastest lap for Jason Anu with 2 minute 12.2.
There's a lot of circuit being used there as they come down the hill. Nice to see, and I've heard it said about Kyalami as well by the international racers, is that they enjoy Kyalami because there's actually a remarkable elevation change. Some of the circuits, Zandvoordt, they've got minor little hills but nothing really as elevation change. So the guys really enjoy the fact that you go either steep uphill or steep downhill. Yeah, there's a little... That's not the way to take that corner, and I think he's lucky to get away with that one and only lose one position.
He was very lucky there, yes. Now that's the corner I happened to be speaking about earlier, where you come into the braking zone as the track drops, and if you brake down just a fraction too quickly, then that happens, and it happens so quickly.
So you've actually got to get the car set up almost before you get to the... dissipate a bit of speed before you get into the corner.
Yes, settle down.
Yeah.
So a lot of understeer going into the carousel there.
It's a tricky corner. If you look at it on paper, there doesn't seem to be anything to it, but I think as soon as you add the speed factor, then it becomes a lot trickier than what it looks like on paper.
You could hear just the slightest of lift off there going through the sweep.
Yes.
Of course, in these Porsches, a slight little bit of lift means you get a little bit of oversteer, which helps the car rotate. Heading down to turn 14.
Now, Vehicles for Life, there's the last corner. One of the nice pieces of signage that if you in-car with one of these cars or panning camera, then you can know. And the Suzuka signage, that means you're coming up to the hill to soon be over the finish line. There it is there. Oh, somebody hard on the rev limiter there.
That was Donnie's thunder. I'm not sure what has happened there, but it sounded like he wasn't able to get the car to close the throttle. It looks like he's got a stuck throttle or something.
Not a nice way to have a race is if something like that jumps on you. Stuck throttle at the most of the time, especially on this circuit where you've got fast sections to be followed by very sharp corners, then a stuck throttle is certainly not going to be a nice thing to have.
He's still stuck in the gravel there. I'm not sure if he's going to get out there. So there's quite a close battle between the teammates up front here.
That in-car with them.
That's in-car with third place Andrew Holland at the moment. The gap has actually just grown as I went to it. It was 8 tenths, and as I clicked on it, it was 1.5. So he obviously just made a mistake.
And it's as quickly as that. You make a slight mistake, and half a second here, half a second there, it all adds up.
Yes.
Speedville Bridge, of course, just before the carousel, which is the one that we've been saying on itself. So if you're suffering with understeer, you'll find the guys drifting to the outside. But these cars that we're watching now, they seem to have got it spot on. See the change in the steering wheel. Oh, that kid wants to break away and he catches it really nicely.
Yes. What a hold there. Fast reflexes.
how would I tell you, when something like that happens, if you're the driver, or even, I've been around a few circuits in speed, now you've got to avoid the car and you've got to get really off, and it garners all your own momentum because of something that happened in front of you.
Yeah, as a racing driver, that's quite frustrating. You want to get past, you've got the momentum, but there's just nowhere to go.
Right, another lap completed as they come on. We're running 30 minutes tonight?
Yes, we're running on 21 minutes left.
Okay. Our time seems to go along quite nicely. Now he's got to, I was going to say, if he's going to pass and use the slipstream, he's got to position the car early, but it looks as though he discretion the better part of value. He decides to tuck in behind and also drifts out wider out of that turn 3 and live to fight another day and take it maybe at some other corner.
Now there's Jean-Ray de Toy behind them as well, coming to play. So now it's a 3-way battle for 4th place.
Yeah. Now this track certainly has a little bit of everything. As I said, high speed sweeps, we've been talking about them, but there are a few corners that are really, really sharp. So you've got to have a combination of everything. You need top end, you need good brakes, you need good car setup, all of those combined for a good lap around here at Road America.
Going down through Hurry Downs, down to turn 8.
Just after 8 will be the Speedville Bridge, then turn 9, which is the start of the carousel, the exit of the carousel, and of course is turn 10. I suppose it's more marshalling points than what they actually corners, but nonetheless that's the way they list it.
Yeah, some of the American tracks are a bit odd. They will make a corner out of a slight little kink. For example, Laguna Seca, what the average person would call turn 1 is actually turn 2.
Yes. So Laguna Seca, that as you exit the straight, then a sharp left, and then that massive elevation change through an S, which I think must be very tricky if you're going to be riding cars this side if they do go to Laguna at some stage.
Well, even this track, turn 1 and turn 3 is what most people call turn 1 and turn 2. The little straight between, yes. There's the slightest of kinks, and that's what they call turn 2.
Yeah.
Have a nice slide there by Basil.
Yeah. This is quite a nice battle. Is these three cars, if they've got each other in sight, of course, then you have a little bit of courage because you think you can actually get to the car, and the car in front is breaking the air resistance for you, and you fall in behind the pocket, but just not close enough to actually make use of that. I'm not sure if the Porsches have much downforce set for the front wheels, aerodynamic downforce, and I see they have a scoop. But whether they're going to be affected by the car in front of them if they're too close in the slipstream, get into such a tight corner, will remain to be seen.
They've got a little skirt on the front of it, but it doesn't take away too much, or that you can feel. But it does seem to affect tyre wear a little bit. So if you sit behind someone for the whole race, the tyres do wear slightly faster than if you weren't behind someone.
Turn 5, and then the Corvette Bridge. There's after that, and the Corvette Bridge. There's a sharp left-hander turn 6. You see them go through it. That actually you can hear them go down through the gearbox and then take. Then it's the kink turn. Wrong. It's a turn 7, not the kink, and then it's the left-hander hurry downs, the Speedville Bridge, and then the carousel all over again. There's the Speedville Bridge. You can see it nicely, and that'll be your warning marker for the carousel.
Now something I noticed there, the way Basil came into the corner, he lifted off, got the rear out, and then got on the power and held the slide to keep it rotating around there. That's an interesting way, but a dangerous way to be taking the corner.
We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for the drifting scene in South Africa to see whether he doesn't do some drifting, because this is actually a bit faster than I think you'd like to be drifting.
Yes.
And a lot more expensive. This is not your standard E36 BMW that you can take through drifting.
Just looking at the YouTube comments, we have quite a lot of YouTube comments that I haven't been keeping track of. We have Johan Carinas. Good to see you back, Johan. Hope you're doing well. We have Lynn Sevenster. Hello, Lynn. Good to have you back. Rudy van der Westhuizen saying good luck, Redline. James Crook saying good luck, Redline. Caroline Joost saying good luck to everyone, especially Jandre Duppenaar. Andre Hildebrandt, unfortunately, can't make it tonight, so he's saying good luck to his teammate Bjorn Buchner and the team, of course, Team Gunston. We have Ross Human saying go Chris and go Jason. There's no brandy for you if you don't win. We have JB Sim Racing. Franco Yunus saying Basil, big thumbs up or arms up. So lots of comments, thanks guys, hope you're enjoying it. Remember, if you're enjoying, to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified for future content.
The 3 cars that we're following at the moment, where they on the lap monitor?
At the moment, this is for position 4th, 5th and 6th. Currently going under the Corvette Bridge, I believe. Yes, Corvette Bridge.
Yes. You haven't heard it yet. It's followed by a 90-degree turn 6. I don't seem to bother about turn 6 too much. It doesn't seem to be too complicated a corner, other than taking a little bit too much curb. They've gone through 7, then it's another 90-degree left turn 8, which will be the Speedwell Bridge, and then understeer and the carousel and the understeer.
At the moment, this seems to be the closest battle on track. Everyone else,
there's the understeer.
As we look at our leader, sorry about that, it's changing. Pretty much all on his own at the moment with a 5-second gap. In the car nicely there, we have a yellow in sector 2, not sure what that's for. We have Chris Collison in 2nd place. Also quite lonely. He's got about a 3-second gap on his new teammate Andrew Holland. So Andrew doing well for his very first race here, giving some pressure to Chris Collison there. And then we have
back for the cars coming for 4th, 5th and 6th, and that's where a nice race is developing.
Yes. And just behind that we have Bjorn Buchner. I'm just going to quickly catch up with everyone before we go back to the fight. We have Marius van Wyk. Donnie Stander, who managed to recover after that off early on in the kitty litter, and has actually got back past Stan Bezuidenhout. So Stan Bezuidenhout, who's just gone off. So let's get back to the battle.
They seem to be holding station though, even though they are close enough but I think at this stage of the race that any benefit, maybe due to tires or something like that, may have disappeared, and you've got to make your incremental gains to catch up to the guy in front of you, or he's got to make a big mistake for you to actually get past, because they seem to be holding station without very much of a change.
And we have crossed the halfway mark, so at some point we might see tyre wear. Usually it's in the last 10 minutes we start to see a bit of tyre wear issues. So we have 13 minutes left out of the 30 minutes, so probably about 3 or 4 minutes to go before we'll start to see any major tyre wear. We have Yonder Duppenau in 4th, just behind him we have Basil van Rijn. Now Basil van Rijn has had tyre wear issues at some of the previous rounds. He's also at the very first round blown his engine on the outlap. So hopefully he's learned from his issues with the tyres and doesn't have any tyre wear issues. It does seem to be getting a lot of understeer there. Going through the kink now, let's see if he can follow nice and tight at least.
Those 3, looks so 5th catching up onto 4th. That's Van Rijn on Dippenau. That might have just been the camera angle that looks as though they're catching up to each other when they sort of pan up, that they are pretty much evenly spaced. Last corner again before they go up the hill. One more lap completed. Underneath the Chevrolet Bridge.
That is currently 6 tenths between Basil van Rijn and Yonder Duppenau. The second gap behind him to Jean-Louis Victor. Which has actually just come down to 9 tenths. So Jean-Louis actually got a slightly bit of drive onto the straight.
Actually, yeah, quite a lot of a handful of it. Oh. And the net result is it's off the circuit.
He held that well there.
Yes.
A bit of a tank slapper there. It looked like it might throw him off, but he held on to it.
Yeah, I think with so much power available, When something like that does happen, it happens very quickly, and you've got to be wide awake to it to be able to hold on to the car, get it pointed back into the right direction where you want it to go again.
Jean de Toy at the moment.
Jean de Toy is a second behind Van Rijn, so it looks less, but that's, if you in Porsche terms, that's what a second looks like. So I think they just holding station and not trying anything fancy, although that was a very wide line in front of him. Is that Dippenaar that took a very wide exit? Okay.
I think Basil van Rijn is suffering from front understeer, so perhaps he's worn his tyres out a bit too much. We're now into 10 minutes remaining, so this is round about the point of one of the previous rounds where he started to suffer some pretty severe tyre wear. Jean-Louis looks like he's falling back slightly, but he might not be pushing his tyres as well, so maybe he'll actually catch towards the end.
And he runs it for a long time in Iris. Oh, there's something off now. You've just got to miss him. Well done, sir. And certainly that's one position caught up. And he didn't actually have any effect on it, or was just there in the right place at the right time to get past the car. And either way, he could have actually have driven into it. But if we see, the car was actually spinning back to the right-hand side of the circuit, and he passed on the left. There was an old, and I can't remember who used to say it, you always take the line to the side of the car where the spinning car has just been, whether that makes any sense at all.
Yes.
So they hit the wall and then they bounce back at you. But yeah, that was what he did exactly there. The car was spinning to the right, and so in other words, he went to the left and managed to miss it. Sargento Bridge, which is on the way down to, it's all the way downhill through the Moraine Sweep, then left-hander turn 5 before they get to the Corvette Bridge, and turn 6, another left-hander 90 degrees.
Nice little bit of a slide there on the power, rotating the car nicely.
Yeah, I think they, as you say, when they get to the second half of the race, it's actually where the tyre wear starts to come into effect, if they've looked after them or not. And if they have, then you can actually mount an attack in the second half of the race.
Ooh. That was close, wow.
As I look down,
needs new underpants.
As I look down at the Underwood ahead of Chris by 8.6 seconds, who's another 3 seconds approximately ahead of Holland. So I don't think all that slide we see on the YouTube, it was just a slide before the Spiegel Bridge, the tank slapper, and you certainly don't want to do that too many times to retain your own sanity.
The gap at the moment between Yandre Dippenaar and Andrew Holland currently sitting at 3 seconds. I'll keep an eye on that. That looks like it might have closed slightly. 7 minutes left to go. We'll see if tyre wear plays a part. With Andrew being a new driver, he might not understand how the tyres wear in this, and he's maybe pushed too hard, so he might drift back. Currently 2.5 seconds behind his teammate Chris Collison.
Chris Collison in second position seems to be holding on, but they've lost Underwood completely. He's off into the distance, and I think he can do tyre conservation of note now with only 7 minutes odd to go, just over 7 minutes to go.
So the gap between 4th place and 3rd place was 3 seconds. It's now 3.1, so perhaps it has stabilized.
I think when you get this far into a race with 7 odd minutes to go and you're going to get points, then I think the Johnny Bravo factor decreases and you just hang on to what you've got. No problem with that corner whatsoever. I just go through it now, hard on the brakes and left again. The Speedwell Bridge, turn 9 and the carousel. This is the one that will test your tyres, specifically the front tyres, and whether they've slowed it down slightly, whether they've got used to the corner. To take the apex, that was perfectly done.
This kink, as they go through the kink here, you have to lift off just to get the car to rotate. Another way to get the car to rotate is to use the inside curb. But the danger of that is it might rotate the car too much, and especially with worn tyres, you then correct it and it snaps the other way.
Everybody seems to be following each other now, and 6 minutes or less than 6 minutes to go now. As I say, that Vehicles for Life sign is a nice indicator to show one more lap completed, and I suppose at some stage when you do introduce pit stop, they'll be looking out for that sign, because that's the point just after that where you go off the circuit into the pit. But at the moment it's up the hill, under the bridge, and then a long downhill, the Road America straight before they go.
Andrew Holland is actually catching Chris Collison. The gap has come down to 1.6 seconds, so he's taken a second out of Chris in the last lap and a bit.
That could make second position very, very interesting with another 5 minutes or so to go, because if you can see the guy in front of you, I said before, it certainly gives you a bit of courage. But if you can see the distance between you and the guy in front decreasing, then you must know that either you're doing something very right, or he's making minor mistakes here and there to your advantage, and you've just got to concentrate like hell and make sure that you don't make any mistake.
And notice in front of him there, Chris was locking up. Now Chris has had problems with his brakes in the last couple of rounds. Let's see how his brakes are faring now, but he definitely locked up there.
He's much closer. You can see it visibly now as they get through those two sets of corners, because for second and third there was never really anything on the go, but now all of a sudden certainly Holland is a lot closer.
I think it might just be the brakes, because just seeing how Chris's car is performing in the corners, it doesn't look like it's sliding that much more than what Andrew's is. But he's definitely having an issue in the brakes.
And as I said before, if you look at this track, turn 1 is quite sharp, turn 3, 5, 6, turn 8, then 12 and 14 are really hard on the brake corners. So there are, I didn't count them as I went through that, but at least 6 of the corners, if not half of them, there was a bit of oversteer there that he caught quite nicely. But 6 of the corners at least, you will be hard on the brakes. So if your brakes aren't set up well, that could have quite an influence on your lap time.
Just over 3 minutes left to go, and the gap is now 1.4 seconds between second and third.
Right, that certainly does make for interesting racing as they come up the hill to finish another lap.
Which means they'll probably finish this lap and one more lap, and that will be the end. So he has 2 laps to see if he can catch and pass his teammates.
The guy in front will be well aware of what's happening in his rearview mirrors. So I should imagine he'll be concentrating to do his utmost to keep that car behind him. But as you say, if you've got something like a brake problem, whether it's the brake bias or it's actually just worn, whatever it means, a bit of glazing on the disc, then that now, if you look at it visually, is actually quite a decrease in the distance between those two cars. So we might still be in for a cliffhanger in the final lap for this one.
I see his brake discs aren't glowing now. One of the previous rounds they were glowing because there was a problem with his brake pedal and dragging all the time. So basically always running hot and locking up. They're not glowing now. You can see the red caliper, but he's still locking up.
Only 0.8 of a second between the two of them now. So certainly could become very interesting towards the last lap. And the question is, if he's going to do something that's now Holland, it's a question of where, because as they go through underneath the Speedwell Bridge, that's into the carousel again, and brakes aren't going to be a factor in the carousel, but your grip is going to be. So if he's looked after the tyres, neither of them seem to be drifting, so they both looked after the tyres well enough. But then after that, it's the kink, which is, just as you say, a little bit of a feather on the throttle, kettle bottoms, but Canada corner. Mitchell bend, there's not too much on the brakes. But turn 14, the last corner, those are two corners that you're going to be quite hard on the brakes, and he'll maybe mount an attack.
Chris is already going defensive there.
Yeah, but on the corner you could see visually that he's catching up now. He's Holland on Chris.
Yeah, 6 tenths behind. It's closest been so far.
Yeah, here's the end of the lap. There's another. I don't think this is actually a point to mount a challenge, but it certainly is a point where you can catch up to the car in front of you. And you've got the full length of the straight, part of it uphill, which will probably negate a little bit of the slipstream, and then downhill all the way again. And just seem to be holding on for now. Let's see what happens. Turn 1 and then turn 3, whether there's any change on the brakes between these two cars.
I think we'll have to watch him into turn 5. That might be where he mounts his attack if he gets a good run.
Just after the Marina sweep. For those of you that don't know where turn 5 is, look out for the Sargento Bridge. It's the next left-hander after the Sargento Bridge, but it's quite a distance after the Sargento Bridge, which goes now.
And the reason I say that is it's quite a long braking. So if Chris has got problems with his brakes, which I think he does, he's going defensive, he's moving around on the brakes a bit, taking an early line.
He's on the brakes a long time before the corner. Corvette Bridge.
And he's looking 2 tenths currently.
Yeah, turn 6. So that's turn 6, which is sharp left. Then they got to sweep to the right and then hurry downs, and then it will be a sharp left-hander. Turn 8 before they go under the Speedwell Bridge. Turn 9 in the carousel. What's the clock?
This is our final lap.
Yeah. I think he's running out of opportunities now.
I think he's basically got 2 opportunities left. One will be into Canada corner and one possibly into turn 14.
Yeah, agreed. But the last turn 14 seems to, even though it looks like a good place to pass, it has a given line. And I think veering off that given line is going to be very, very difficult to position your car, because also both of you will be going uphill from there for the finishing line. So very little chance to actually accelerate quicker than your opponent going uphill.
And as you see Jason coming across the line, we'd have a position change for seconds. So Andrew has indeed got past off camera.
It's a pity we changed cameras at that stage, which is, as luck would have it, it happens often. You go for the race leader and then everything happens behind that.
Yes, as they're coming across to Stan Bezednas, he's just managed to stay from being lapped. In fact, he was lapped. It would have been a second lap.
Yeah, interesting race. And as you said, if you hadn't looked after your tyres, but in this case it wasn't tyres, it was problematic brakes. And Holland did get past Chris, as you said, for second. Chris in third, Dippenaar in fourth, De Toy in fifth. I think there was a long gap from Dippenaar to Van Rijn of about 20 seconds. And then from Van Rijn, I don't think that should 7 seconds further back. And then a long, long way back to number 77, Van Wyk. Thunder in ninth, about 40 seconds plus behind that, and Besaidnout lap down.
Getting it slightly wrong there into Canada corner. Also easily done, because as you come out the straight there's a bit of a kink and you straighten up. If you brake as you're still swerving, then that happens.
You don't want to be showboating there at that speed, I don't think. I think it's going to bite you very quickly, and it might be expensive.
Yes.
One was.
Right, so basically only Darnie Stander yet to cross the line.
Now the front runners slowing down, probably waving at each other and the spectators.
Coming through the final corners to 13.
It's Bill Mitchell bend.
And onto the Road America straight. And that's it for round 4 from Road America. So
Interesting track.
Very, very interesting. Yes, it's a fantastic track for pretty much any vehicle. Formula cars, tin tops, you name it. That's just a really good track for racing.
Somebody else, maybe these are just replays of previous incidents.
I think this is just guys on their in-lap. Perhaps just trying to do a bit of showboating and getting it a bit wrong.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's head to an ad break before I go and find our top 3 for some interviews. So we'll be right back with you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the interviews for round 4 from Road America, Wisconsin. End of round 4, so round 4 completed. So we've just hit the halfway mark of the championship, so currently 4 rounds left to go. We are joined tonight by our top 3 drivers, which happens to be the complete Team Harder Racing, so it's a team interview. So perhaps we can start first with our race winner, Jason Underwood. Jason, a fantastic race again. You just managed to just sort of pull away. It looked like your new teammate was going to give you guys a hard time, and he sort of gave it to Chris right at the end there. But how was the race from your point of view?
Yeah, hi there, Dennis. Yeah, it was in hindsight overall, it looked pretty easy, but it was far from it. There's a lot of quick drivers in this championship, but I thought, if I can break the slipstream on the first lap or two, hopefully I could pull away. And then I just did qualifying laps, lap after lap, hoping that my tires would last towards the end, and they did. So yeah, happy. And quick mention to our new driver, Andrew Holland. Great efforts from Andrew and Chris to bring a 1, 2, 3 for Team Harder Racing. So very happy with that.
All right, then let's head to our new driver, Andrew. Andrew, welcome to Sim Experience SA. It's a fantastic first time driving with us. Jason has, of course, given us the heads up about your driving credentials, so we are aware that you are taking part in the Virtual Le Mans series. So you obviously have some fair amount of pedigree. You definitely showed it tonight. You had great pace, and you certainly managed your tires a lot better than I was expecting. I wasn't too sure if you would run into tire wear towards the end, not being too familiar with this, but you seem to manage them really well. From your point of view, how did your race go?
It was quite interesting. It's always interesting racing with a new league because you don't know anyone and you don't know what it's going to be like. But you all seem like a good bunch of guys, and the race went really well. It's the first time in this car as well. I've not driven it before. I've driven the official Cup car, which is entirely different to this one, but it is quite a nice car to drive. The front left wore a bit, but not too badly.
That's good to hear. I'm glad. Right towards the end, it looked like you were not quite going to make the move on Chris, but on the very last lap, the automated camera changed to catch the leader going across the line, and in that moment, you made a pass.
Yeah.
So you really stuck it to Chris right at the end. It looked like Chris was having a bit of brake issues again, which he had for 2 of the previous rounds. So we'll get to Chris in a moment about that. But whereabouts did you actually make the pass?
At Canada corner, he locked up and ran wide, and I just went up the inside and just got ahead there.
All right, that would make sense because before Canada corner, it looked like the gap was still around about 5/10. In fact, you got to about 2/10 and you were fighting, and then it extended to about 5/10, and then the camera changed, and the next thing you got past.
Yeah. Yeah, he made a mistake. I mean, it's quite hard to pass. It needs a mistake, really, and it was a big enough one that I could get by.
All right, then let's head to third place. Chris Collison, well done on your third place podium. Unfortunately, you lost out on second place on the final lap there. But it looked like you were having a much better round. Unfortunately, it looked like the last probably 5 or so laps, you were starting to have brake problems again. It looked like that had been sorted, but it looks like maybe not so much. Your brake discs weren't glowing, so maybe it's a different problem. But still some form of brake problem. You were the only driver that I could see actually locking up with a bit of tire smoke. So how was the race from your point of view? Any notable issues with the brakes?
Okay, well, hi to you, Dennis, and to Sean. Thanks for your commentary tonight. Fantastic. I'm struggling to gel with the car, to be perfectly honest with you, and I still haven't quite worked out what I'm doing, but my tyres and my brakes are getting quite messy as the race goes on. It's been noticeable in the other races. Wasn't so bad this evening. Andrew was chasing me down for the second half of that, and he deserves second place, absolutely. I ran wide with a couple of corners to go, and he absolutely took advantage of that. Very proud of Team Harder Racing today. You can't get better than a 1, 2, 3. And I'd like to do a quick shout out to my grandson, Edward, if that's okay, just quickly, who's sat here diligently watching the whole thing, cheering us on. So thanks, guys. But yeah, struggling with the car, but I'm working on it and still enjoying it. Great fun.
Well, one of the things I've noticed with this car is when you go from the brake pedal to the throttle pedal, that moment there, you kind of need to do a bit of work. You can't just sort of go from one to the other. You got to kind of play with the pedals a lot more to settle the car. I'm not sure if you maybe doing that transition differently, and that's generating a bit of a slide, which is giving you a bit more tire wear as the race progresses.
You could well be right, Dennis. I'm working on it. Going to put some practice in. Better this week than last week, so onwards and upwards from now.
All right, well, congratulations again then on your third place.
Thank you very much, and cheers, guys.
Sean, any questions from your side towards our top 3?
I just need to tell Chris he doesn't have to worry too much about the car setup as such. From what we could see of the top 3 going through the carousel, all 3 of you seem to have no problems with the carousel whatsoever. But we did mention on the tight corners, those are the places that we could notice that Chris was where Chris was losing space to Andrew. And Andrew was just consistent on those sharp corners. I think there were 6 of them. We were running through the layout of the circuit. And if you have problems with the brakes, this track has enough corners or has enough sharp corners that are going to catch you out. And unluckily for you, with 3 corners to go, you just had one slight mistake, and that was the difference between second and third.
Yeah, well, I think you could well be right, Sean. You could well be right. Like I say, I'm working on it. They're good cars to drive. They're good fun. I think maybe I'm downshifting a little early, which is stressing the car. And as the race goes on, it does cause me problems. But, nonetheless, I don't want to complain. I'm very happy with third. And big congratulations to Jason. Absolutely the class of the field today. And brilliant from Andrew as well for second. So, yeah, fantastic.
Any other questions from your side, Sean?
No, I have no questions. I enjoyed the commentary. I enjoyed the track. It certainly is a nice track for these cars specifically, where I'd be very interesting to know what the percentages are that you actually are at full throttle on this. And it must be close to probably well over 45, 50% that you're actually on full throttle going through the circuit. But the times that you are hard on the brakes, you certainly are having to do a lot of work to get the car slowed down. I think they must be quite a handful to drive. But certainly a nice circuit to commentate on as well. And what makes it nice from a commentary perspective is that you have a lot of signage that you can actually see, which I should imagine for the drivers. Maybe Jason can answer that for me. Do you guys also look out for specific names that are posted around the circuit to know where your brake markers are going to be and what you can do entering and exiting a corner? Maybe Jason's disappeared.
I'm here.
There
Sorry.
you are.
Sorry. I certainly mark out, like you say, a signage board, or the countdown, the 300, 200, or 100 meter mark. We did have an instance in qualifying when somebody took out those boards going down into T2, which made it a little bit more trickier. But you've got to kind of look for another marker. You've got to adjust. You've got to keep adjusting all the time, and when your tires wear and your brakes wear down, obviously those braking distances, they increase slightly. So yeah, it's just adapting to how the car feels and the surroundings.
Great, thanks for that. I look forward to the next round.
All right, then let's do some shout-outs. So perhaps, Jason, let's start with you. Any shout-outs from your side for your posse of fans?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say a big congrats to Chris and Andrew. Great start for this new venture that we're on. 1, 2, and 3. Couldn't have asked for more. All the people that are supporting back home in South Africa and on the live stream. I did try and comment back. Thank you for that. And everybody over here in England that's watching and supporting not only myself but Team Harder Racing. We appreciate it, and thank you very so much.
All right, then Andrew, any shout-outs from your side?
Well, thanks, Jason, for asking me to race with you. I race with Jason and Chris elsewhere. I didn't expect to be racing here, but it's very nice, so thank you for asking me along. Thanks, Dennis, for running it and all the other organisers. It's a well-run event, so thanks for that.
It's a pleasure. Does that mean you're off to run a AMS2 race now?
Yes.
Yes, all three of us.
Is that an hour-long race?
45 minutes now.
45,
Yeah.
all right. So that's going to be a lot of work. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, Chris, any shout-outs from your side?
I think I did mine already, Dennis. But look, again, I've said it before. Thanks ever so much for what you do. Sean, great knowledgeable commentary today. I had it on in the background. It was great to listen to. Hope everyone else enjoyed it. Well done, Jason. Well done, Andrew. I expect the Underwood Army are going to have a good night.
Yes, and so does the Team Harder Racing.
Indeed.
Great.
All right, thank you, guys. I'm going to just kick you all out of the commentary for now, and then myself and Sean can then just finalize the stream for now. But thank you once again all, and congratulations on your podium and victory for Jason. So Sean, that's the end of round 4 from Road America. For the next round, we will be heading over to the Red Bull Ring in Austria, which is also a very fast track, a lot more tighter corners though, but also very, very fast, lots of straights there. So how do you think the racing will compare there as opposed to here, Road America?
I think if you look at what happened at Road America today, it was bright sunshine during qualifying. It looked slightly overcast during the race itself, but it didn't affect the circuit at all. Red Bull Ring being in the middle of Europe, it is very changeable. So we might even see the changeable conditions for Red Bull Ring having an influence on the race itself. And the setup and the tyres that you start the race with might not be the same tyres that you finish it with. We can actually see that it is so fickle that they might have to change twice. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's certainly something that the riders need to keep in the back of their mind, is that the weather might determine what tyres you're on, and that might actually happen more than once.
Yes, and as far as I know, there is a bit of wet weather forecast for next week. So how much is a a bit of a guessing game at the moment, but we will definitely be seeing a bit of rain, so they are likely to require wet tyres at some point or other in the race. So it will also mean it'll be the first time we see the drivers required to do pit stops, which could be another challenge for some of the drivers.
It's going to be very interesting to see, as you say, specifically some of them that is going to be their first time doing pit stops. It's going to be the important thing always with pit stops is at what point do you do the pit stop? Do you go past another lap? And if you do that lap, how hard is it going to rain? And if it does rain, then it might be that you've made the pit stop, or the decision has, the window is actually closed and you're too late. Alternatively, if you make the change and the weather doesn't come down, then maybe you've made it too early and you take your wet weather tyres and run the best of them on a dry circuit. So certainly it could be very interesting.
Indeed. All right, so let's wrap it up there for tonight. So Sean, once again, thank you for joining tonight. It's been fantastic having you. Looking forward to next week's round. It's been an absolute blast having a veteran commentator like yourself next to me here. So absolutely thank you very much for joining us. And I'm sure the viewers would appreciate it a lot more than what I do.
It's been a pleasure, and certainly different to what I'm used to, but we adapt, as certainly the race drivers said in the interviews as well, that they had to adapt when their brake markers disappeared. So also we adapt to live commentary, or from live commentary to sim racing commentary. And a great thank you to Sim Experience South Africa, and also to Alwin Automotive Glass for sponsoring this series. It's been a blast for me as well.
All right, then let's end it there. We're going to head off to our final outro video. So thank you all. And remember, if you liked it, to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon. And we will catch you all next week from the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Good night, everybody.
Good night, you all.